Thanks for coming on today, man. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So for those that don't know who you are or what you're about, feel free to explain what you do, who you're training, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, my name is, I go by Coach Dave. That's my hashtag, my moniker, if you will. And basically, I work with pro and college athletes, some high school kids, that are at different phases and different stages of their athletic career. I work with both men and women. And gosh, I've been doing this now for, has to be about over 20 years, very intensely over the past probably 15 now.
Wow, you're like a veteran in the sport, in the game. Is there
Yeah.
any sort of niche that you're in the sense of training athletes and so on, or are you training like different fields, track and field, fighters, and so forth?
Right. So I'd probably say that college and pro football would be my, and then UFC and Bellator fighting. So I've got 15 fighters and a cadre of NFL players that I work with. Um, uh, some of the more preeminent fighters would be Chael Sonnen, who's getting ready to fight Fedor here in New York in October. We're 3 weeks away from that fight. We're pretty deep into camp, and he's looking great. I expect to win. I expect we take care of Fedor in the second round. Paige Van Zant, who's recovering from a broken arm. I did not break it. She broke it on someone's skull in the middle of the first period of a fight, and she managed to finish the fight, which I can't imagine what that must have felt like. It was a really bad radial break in her forearm.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the first go at fixing it didn't work, so she had to get it rebroken. And on top of getting it rebroken, she had to have a graft from her hip. That has now taken, if you will. It's a little slow in the heel. We're back to training, and she's got a fight, believe scheduled with the UFC. I think Sean Shelby and Dana scheduled it for January, to be announced where. She looks good. I'd say the time off, she still worked hard. We stayed away from the arm, obviously, so we did a lot more core stuff with her. But she's an athlete. She's a professional athlete. She's smart. She's a hard worker, and she's tough.
Mm.
So I anticipate her next opponent, I'll call it a victim, will be a good fight, and it'll favor Paige on that. Austin Vanderford, her fiance, we have their wedding at the end of the month. His next fight is in November, I believe. He won his debut at Ultimate Fighter and unfortunately did not get the contract. I think it's a mistake on Dana and Sean's part, and I think they're realizing that now. And rumor on the street is that Bellator and or UFC will probably make him an offer in the next 30 to 60 days. We're hoping.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Rudy Shafarov, another big name that's on Bellator now. He just has for opening fight, his debut fight. Knocked the guy out. He's a heavyweight. Knocked the guy out in like, I think, 46 seconds. He's a freak of nature, 6'5", 260. Just an absolute monster college wrestler, so he knows how to wrestle and throw. I can name a cadre of athletes. Basically, I think I prefer to work with the UFC athletes and the fighters, just because of their mentality when it comes to training.
Yeah.
They're training not to die. That's the way they look at it. I don't want my arm broken. I don't want my liver punched or kicked. So it's a self-preservation thing, and because of that, they train harder than anyone else.
Mm.
Uh,
Do
Good.
they all have like a certain mentality? Like, do they all tick that box? Do you know what I mean? In the sense of Paige, obviously her fiance, and I can never pronounce his name. Kale, is it Kale?
No, Chael Sonnen is
Chael.
not.
There we go.
Chael's a different guy. Paige Van Zant's fiance is Austin Vanderford.
Yeah, that's it, Austin. Yeah, yeah, I know that. I know they're the fiance and Paige and him because I follow them both on Instagram.
Right.
But like those two, are their mentalities the same as Chael's, or like do they all fit the same sort of mental focus, or are they sometimes harder to motivate? Like, is one of them more motivated than the other? Do you know what I mean?
Great question. Motivation. I don't have to motivate any fighter ever. They want to be there. They're there because they want to be the best. their survival is based on their success and vice versa. So that's not a problem. I mean, sometimes with my NFL athletes, they're already paid. They've got their contracts. They've got their money in the bank. Occasionally, I come across one that drags his feet a little, getting to practice, getting to warm ups, getting to work out. Not always, but it does happen. I'd say my cadre of fighters is definitely my preeminent athlete.
So how do you go about getting into sort of the like motivating them as well, and like so maybe they've got that extra 10%. How do you kind of get into their head or push them to that next level, and maybe perfect their little flaws that they might have?
It's a great question. Again, it's one of those weird things where every athlete is different. And to your previous question, they already have it in them. It's innate in a fighting sport that they want to be better and be the best and have all the tools to win. It's one-on-one. It's on broadcasted live in front of millions of people. So they already have that drive. Now, with that being said, some fighters, you got to constantly stroke them, tell them how good they're doing. And generally they are doing good, but sometimes you have to build them up. Other fighters, it's just the opposite. You don't have to say a word. You just tell them what to do. They give you the yes coach, they give you the nod. You correct minor corrections, especially with Austin Vanderford. Everything is a minor correction. The guy is an absolute freak of nature. I've never come across an athlete like him. It's a motor that doesn't quit. And I would say between him and a couple of my other fighters, I would say I have to pull them back, apply the reins, if you will.
Yeah.
Because they won't stop and they'll hurt themselves overtraining.
Yeah, it's strange because people don't always think about that. They always just think like more is better. And sometimes for certain people, I mean, I work in a gym over here in England, and you see it. Some people, they're just going mad, and you're like, have your recovery period, like, chill out. Like we've got to do this tomorrow as well, and they're like, yeah, it's okay, tomorrow. Like, yeah, we'll do that tomorrow, whatever. And you're like, no, you need to listen to what I'm saying. This is why I'm here. Do you know what I mean? I'm here to stop you from potentially injuring yourself or doing your rotator cuff from just going too hard on the bench press for too long. Like there is that overtraining aspect of things. So I suppose that's a good thing that you're there to also do to rein people in, because maybe not all coaches are like that. You see like Instagram coaches where they're just like more, and you're like, you're gonna kill this person. What are you doing?
Yeah, generally people that have degrees and have certificates does not mean you're a good coach, especially in the world of strength and conditioning as it pertains to fighting. Football is a combat sport. People might not view it as such, but it's a combat sport. It's guys running into each other, and they're hybrid athletes, and they're moving very quickly, and their muscle mass and their density and their speed it's ridiculous. It's a small car accident at all times. With that being said, it's not a combat sport with hands and fists and feet and people trying to hurt you. So we have to kind of slow down the athlete. But the best question that I hear a lot is the mindset of the athlete. And if any coach wants to be efficient and be effective, they have to get in their athlete's head. And if I have 5 or 6 fighters in a room, I can't coach them all the same way. I might have them all doing the same exercise, but every single one requires a conversation pre, during, or post workout where I evaluate them, or where sometimes I correct something quietly because it's an athlete that you embarrass them, they don't respond well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can imagine that doesn't always go down too well. I've played football low level over here. If my manager used to dig me out, like, you're not doing this properly, you're shit, what are you doing? I'd be like, I'm pumped, I'm motivated, like, all right, I'm going to prove you wrong. Whereas a couple of my mates, they'd get digged out and they'd just go into a hole and then they'd just play even worse. And you're like, what are you doing? So I think knowing, like for you, it's obviously knowing your fighters, knowing your NFL guys and that, and knowing sort of how far to scream at them or not.
You've got some English talent coming out of you got some talent coming out of England right now. Some really good fighters coming out of England.
Yeah,
you guys excited?
Yeah, I mean, we've got. I spoke to I don't know if you probably would have heard of Mark Diakisi. And obviously you've got Michael Venom Page. I spoke to Linton Vassell as well. They're all obviously British lads in Bellator, and obviously Mark's in the UFC now. So yeah, prospects for them obviously doing really well, I hope.
Good for you guys.
So do you have any do you have like general methods you use with each of the people that you're training? Like, is there like a one shoe fits all, or is it a different program for each individual person that you're training?
Right. So if you follow my Instagram account, we don't train in a gym unless it's below freezing and or torrential rains or snowing. We're outside. Doesn't matter. I like the atmosphere that God gave us, and the clouds overhead, and the earth underfoot. And for me, it's everything that's not conventional is what I want to do. We never do squats. We never do deadlifts. We never do cleans. I hate all that crap. Any athlete that shoulder presses should have their athletic card removed. And any trainer that trains those things, I'm not saying that squats and deadlifts and don't have an application, but they have zero application in athletics. Zero. They may make you stronger, but it's not a functional movement. So if you look, when we flip a tire, it's a combination of a squat and a deadlift, but it's a functional movement because you're advancing, you're moving forward, you're using your leverage points as opposed to just flipping a weight over your shoulders. So my methodology and the way I approach things is, what is a functional movement for that particular modality of sport, football, fighting, baseball, whatever it is, and how do I apply that movement to a conditioning and or a muscle strengthening aspect. And the biggest thing for me is we work on the fast twitch muscles and we leave the big muscles alone. The big muscles will eventually engage themselves after the fast twitch muscles have exhausted themselves. So we pull a tire, push a tire, flip a tire, carry a tire, hit a tire with a hammer, run a hill with a tire, medicine balls. We do have a bench press in there, but we don't do heavyweight. We do lightweight, high rep. And as such, we've never had an injury. I mean, occasionally there's a broken bone, but no ligaments, no knees, no ankles, nothing like that.
Yeah, it's like it kind of, when you're talking about like the tire and stuff, it's kind of like reminds me of like Rocky, like that sort of kind of old school type of training,
Right.
but effective, obviously.
Right.
And like anyone who says otherwise, you just set them that challenge. Like, okay, come out and do 20 tire flips, and then get this hammer and start smashing into it for 4 sets of 30 seconds and see how you feel. And I guarantee you the result's going to be, man,
Yeah.
coach, I'm dying here. Like, give me a break. And you're like, well, you said it wouldn't work.
Absolutely.
I mean, I follow. I had a podcast with him as well. I don't know if you know him, Phil Daru from American Top Team. He's like, he's like their strength and conditioning coach. So he trains Dustin Poirier, Joanna Jacek, did train Tyron Woodley. He was their strength and conditioning coach, and his philosophies are fairly similar. He does like a lot of mobility work. You see him doing like power balls against the wall, but he does get them doing deadlifts and I think bench press. So I don't know what his view is on that take of things, and I'd have to ask him as well, like, to get the difference of opinions. I'm sure that you both share the same opinion, and I'm sure there's probably like a little, he's like training Dustin, doing deadlifts and bench pressing for a certain reason. Then you'd probably go, yeah, I agree with you. That's actually what you should be doing. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, I don't know what the program is that he's on. It's just what I've seen on his Instagram.
Right. And some athletes, you want to grow muscle and grow. The best way to grow muscle is with those big muscle group activities.
Yeah.
Most of my athletes cut weight for fights. Most fighters cut weight, and growing a muscle, especially in the quad or in the lower half of your body, which is the bigger group, the bigger muscle groups, is not advantageous to cutting weight because you have to lose that muscle to cut the weight. You can't just soak the water out of it. And the bigger the muscle, the faster it tires, and the more things that can go wrong. So here's an example. Austin Vanderford, when I first got a hold of him, walked around 210 to 213. I mean, he's a monster at 5'10" at that weight. No body fat, just a monster. He had these quadriceps that would not fit in a pair of normal shorts. I mean, he has custom-made shorts. Since I've had him over the past year, I have him walk, and he cuts to 170, mind you.
Wow.
I have him walking at 193. So I've taken almost 15 pounds of weight off that guy. His legs are still monstrous, but they've shrunk a little bit. And now the water that they hold he can get rid of faster because it's not within the muscle, rather it's in the soft tissue. So again, his weight cuts have gone from brutal, arduous weight cuts starting at usually 206 down to 170. Now he's cutting from 193 or 189 to 170, which it's still a tough cut, but it's a much easier cut.
Yeah.
Son and I are putting weight on him for Fedor, but yeah, for me, it all lies in the end game: weight cut, body type, what have you.
So do you do like the nutritional side of things as well?
I do.
Okay, that makes sense now. So you're kind of like well all rounded. Like you're bringing them in, and you're like right, nutrition, training, etc., etc.
Well, and again, it depends on the athlete. Is she done? Can you grab her? It depends on the athlete because, like with a Chael Sonnen, um, he's older. Been fighting for 20 years in the UFC, and now he's in Bellator. And he tends to like the feel good foods during this time of year. Like he'll drive through a fast food restaurant. I won't say any names. And eat them all. Or drink a soda, which I'm like Mr. Anti-soda. I think it's a gateway drug. With that being said, he's set in his ways at 40, so I have to slowly take things from him. Austin Vanderford, he's a two-time All-American college wrestler. Those guys know exactly how to cut weight, and they know how to do it efficiently, and they know what foods to eat. And what he does is he chooses to eat lean for a bigger chunk of the year. So it's like, to your point, the psychology of the athlete, it's different for everybody.
No, cool, man. Like it's mad to think because like some people just think generic program, generic program, generic program, and then obviously you realise like okay, this guy needs a certain bit of nutrition for him, and he needs a certain bit of nutrition for him, and his lifestyle is his lifestyle, and his lifestyle. Like I can't change them all to be perfect. Like he's been doing this for 20 years, he's been doing this for 5 years, and so on. So yeah, it's just mad to think like obviously the amount of work that you've got to put in to kind of get these guys in tip-top shape and ready to fight and ready to go.
Yeah.
What are your future plans as well? Where do you see yourself going in the next sort of 5 years?
I mean, I think I want. We're coming to the end of Chael's career, so I wanted him to go out with these wins. I'd like him to win that Bellator belt. He's in that Grand Prix right now. And I don't want to look beyond Fedor. Fedor's no joke, but I think we have a good game plan for Fedor. I think we beat Fedor, like I said, in the second period. I think we're looking at that next fight, which would be for the belt between Bader, the outcome of the Bader fight, and I'm going to stay right there in that wheelhouse right now. I'm going to say let's talk about the next 6 months. 5 years from now, I'm 50-year-old strength and conditioning coach. I love what I do. I love who I work with for the most part, and I'm fortunate enough to handpick the crew I work with. If I don't like you, I'm not training you. If you're an idiot, you're not going to be with me.
You're looking good for your age, man.
Hey, thank you. My wife's sitting across from me. I think she wants me to have a little bit more hair and less of a gut, but I think I'm doing all right.
Nah, man, the shoulders and that, like teeth, not so many wrinkles. I think I've got more wrinkles than you. I'm like wondering what's going on. So how did you become a coach and begin working with sort of these big sporting names like the Page or your NFL guys?
I had an unfortunate incident happen to me when I was younger. I was getting into my own career with combat sports, and I had to take some time off for some surgery to my nose and my eye socket. And as a result of that, I started training guys, and I fell in love with it. And I'm not a typical certified trainer where the certification meant a lot to me. I rather read everything and took note of people much smarter than me. And basically everything I do is plagiarized. Everything I do, I've taken from a guy smarter than me or a female trainer smarter than me. And what I've developed is an amalgamation of everything I've ever learned. And I continue to learn from my fighters or my athletes. Even my high school kids teach me. When something's working, not working, something new, they show it to me, and then I make sure that they're doing it functionally, and I get to step back and watch them improve. Probably my greatest reward is watching high school athletes go to Division I colleges and excel or get a free education because of their athletic prowess.
Well, it must be a proud moment, man. Like
Incredibly proud.
legitimately, do you know what I mean? Because obviously, it ain't cheap either. Do you know what I mean? To get all the money to for, because they get what do you get? Scholarships and things like that. Is that right over there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the average school over here for 4-year education runs about 150,000 for a Division One college. In like a Stanford, we have a kid here, Tim Tawa, who could have easily walked right into the Major League Baseball program, but decided he got a free ride to Stanford because of his baseball and football prowess, and that's a $400,000 education he gets for nothing.
Wow.
Let's see, in 4 years, he's got a Stanford degree hanging on his wall, and it opens up some jobs, right?
Yeah.
So he got that by working hard and dedicating himself mentally, physically, scholastically, and that's the benefit. And yes, very proud moment.
I guess that's the same for your journey as well, because you obviously applied yourself mentally to learning all these things, and then physically, I guess, trying some things out yourself, and then obviously now you're where you're at. You've been in the game a long time, and obviously training the best. You know.
It's fun. It's not without its challenges. We're talking about some prima donna like athletes who don't always take instruction well, and even though I'm self-professed Coach Dave, sometimes you got to be Jerk Dave, or sometimes you got to be Daddy Dave, sometimes you got to be Uncle Dave, sometimes you got to be Brother Dave, and sometimes you don't want to be any of that stuff. You just want to go coach, and that to me is the biggest challenge for someone that's as invested in an athlete as I've become. And a lot of if you look around the UFC and Bellator, there's probably about, I'd say there's 15 of us. And in the UFC alone, there's 600 contracted fighters. In Bellator, I think there's 250 contract fighters. So there's 15 of us that have the bulk of the high talent. And the challenge is maintaining your own sanity when you're trying not to absorb your athlete's baggage. I get hate mail when Paige Van Zandt flips a tire and she posts it. She gets 300,000 views, sometimes 400,000 views in moments. And I joke with my wife about this. I get hate mail. People literally want to string me up because her functional tire flip is so pathetic. But people, what they don't understand is it may not look right to them. She's not using her legs. She's not using her this. She's not doing that. But for someone like Paige, it's not abnormal because her range of motion, because of her back, is limited. And rather have her not do the exercise, her body over the years has compensated. And what we have is her version of a tire flip. It's an amalgamated hybrid version. And it makes me uncomfortable to watch it, but she's not going to hurt herself. I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
And she's never hurt herself flipping a tire.
No, I mean, sorry, no, go on.
No. The point being that the hate mail, I got to weather the storm from 400,000 views, right? And I do. I don't always handle it well. I think my wife will tell you that. But it's par for the course. I can't make everybody happy. I know my athlete. I know what she can and can't do, and I'm not going to stop doing it.
Fuck you, Instagram. Do you know what I mean? Straight up, just nah.
No comment.
Well, you know, you obviously know what you're doing. You've been in the sport a long time. Like you've been training people a long time, and you've got some guy who's 15 or whatever, and he's like training in the gym, and he's just like, "Yeah, man, that tire flip. She's doing it all wrong." And it's like, have you even met her to talk to her to know what her problem is? Like, why she's lifting it that way? Like, come on, get off my back. Jesus. I don't know how you don't just do a video, you ranting, just like exposing all these people,
I thought about it, and every time I go to do it, either my wife talks me out of it, or I realize, what do I give a crap? I mean, I don't care about that. I mean, they're her fans, and I respect that. She's got 1.8 million people following her on Instagram. But I don't need to make them happy. I have to make her feel good and functionally ready for her fight. Her broken arm was an unfortunate incident, she would have won that fight. She finished the fight. She was punching this girl in the face with a broken arm. And this girl's got supposedly has got some really incredibly dense skull because it's the second arm she's broken, with a spinning back fist, which again, I don't support that or condone that move, but Paige made the decision to do it in the middle of the fight.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense of mobility, obviously my mobility is pretty poor in my hips. So when I squat, I can't get down to the full 90-degree angles and lower. So I'm like I have to compensate when I squat. I don't go down as deep. And the amount of people that come up to me and they're like, "You need to go deeper. You need to go deeper." And I'm like, "Bruv, come on." My hips, like my knees, they just don't allow me to. So I've been trying to increase my mobility to increase my depth of squat, but it ain't easy, When you've got a problem, you've got a problem. Sometimes it ain't. You can't work it out.
Yeah, I mean it's genetics too. I mean, you could have been born with those hips,
Yeah.
and every body has its limitations. I used to be what I consider to be flexible. At 50 years old, I'm less flexible. And as we get older, joints deteriorate, testosterone deteriorates, recovery time increases instead of decreases. These are all just natural events that happen in the course of a body's life. And I'll correct someone if I think if it's dangerous. I will tell you, with Paige, it drives me crazy sometimes, her not setting her hips when she flips a tire, because she's the only one that I have that does it. But over the past year and a half I've been training her, we've had no injuries except for the broken arm. What I've come to realize, here's another example for you. DeAnthony Thomas plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. He is the fastest man in the NFL. I think he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He ran a 4.24 40. Okay. Now he's at 4.20, I think, or 4.21. But he's officially the fastest guy in the NFL. Well, he came to me and said, "Hey, while we're training, can you make me faster?" I'm like, "I don't know how to make you faster. I mean, you're the fastest guy in the NFL. I mean, what do you want me to do?" He goes, "Well, I want to get faster." So we did some things, and sure enough, he was getting quicker, but it was by accident that he was getting faster. Well, one day I put him on his back and I started to stretch him, and I realized DeAnthony Thomas, an NFL slot receiver, could not put his knee to his stomach. I'm like, "Whoa, what's wrong?" So I stood him up. I spread his legs and I had him go down and touch his toes. He couldn't put his hands below his knees. I'm like, "Holy crap, there's the problem. You're too tight." So I put him on his back and I started stretching him slowly. And I'm like, "This feels like you're going to tear something." And he's wincing. So I stopped and I called a friend of mine. His name is Dr. Steve Young. He's a physical therapist out of New York, New Jersey, I think. And just a very bright guy. And I was telling him, "Hey, I got DeAnthony Thomas on his back here in a football field and I'm stretching him out." And the guy is like tight as a rubber band. And he goes, "Stop. Do not stretch him. Don't make him bend. Don't make him do anything." And I'm like, "Dude, what is wrong?" He goes, "Listen to me." And again, this is a doctor I'm talking to, and his modality is physical therapy, and he understands the body, and he's a brilliant mind. And he said sprinters inherently have fast twitch muscles that are bound in very tight muscle, and that's what makes them fast. He goes, by stretching them and making them loose, you will increase the likelihood that they're going to pull something. I'd never heard any. Like I said, I've been doing this for years. I had never heard anything like that. Sure enough, all of my sprinter-based athletes, especially in the NFL, all of them have super tight quads, hamstrings, and glutes. More prone to pull, more prone to injury, but they're wound like a rubber band, ready to break, and that's what makes them quit. Right? I never knew that. So for the remainder of the years I've trained DeAnthony Thomas through the NFL, never. Our warm-ups are all dynamic, all motion-based, never sedentary, and I never get on the guy. I never stretch his hammies, his quads, or anything. But again, I never would have known that had I not made that call. I would have stretched him and probably broken.
Imagine that. You would have been
Right?
the guy that broke him.
Anthony Thomas, right? I ruined the fastest. He's like a bionic man, and I broke him.
So, what advice would you give to other coaches sort of wanting to get to the level you're at and, with working with the personalities that you're working with?
Read, learn, listen. Your athletes will almost always show you or tell you what they need. So people always say, "Hey, what are we doing today, coach?" Or, "Hey, what's tomorrow's workout?" I don't know. I usually do it on the fly a little bit, and I start off with a warm up. In my warm up, and again, if you look through my Instagram, you'll see we do a 1 mile walk out in the country, right? From my driveway down a hill or down a dirt road, uh, past a winery. Then we lunge 100 yards uphill, do a dynamic walk for 100 yards, backpedal for 100 yards near a pond, cut through a field, and we're back to my gym. Excuse me. During that 1 mile, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to each one of them. I engage every single one of them. I listen to them talk. "Oh my gosh, that workout yesterday was brutal. We did with Coach Fabiano. Yeah, did you see what happened to Ed Herman? Oh, my lower back is so tight. Is your back? Oh yeah, my back." Well, I'm listening to that. I've got 5 fighters there, 3 of which have tight backs. Guess what we're not doing? We're not flipping tires today, right? So immediately I shift gears. Okay, let's focus on the upper body. Let's make sure that the back is stabilized. So what I would always tell someone is if you schedule a workout for an athlete at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that same athlete, you say, "Hey, do me a favor. Can you show up 15 minutes early just to stretch? Got a foam roller out for you. If you like a little pre-workout drink, I'll make that for you." A good trainer's job is to be a servant, and I'm there to serve you. How can I help you? You're not there for me. My paycheck takes care of me. I'm here to tend to your needs. Find out what their needs are and then tend to them. And more often than not, all of my athletes because we have a camp here, right? We have a team. I know what they're doing during the day. I know who they're training with. I know their Muay Thai coaches. I know their jiu-jitsu coaches. I know their stand-up coaches. So I can kind of get some background, and mostly everybody centers their camps around me. So I'm able to be that focal point for them. When I listen and I learn and then I apply. And those 3 things are probably what makes me a better coach. The rest of it's just academics. Any fool can create a hard workout for any athlete. And it's not rocket science. The key is to put together the right workouts, the right time, so that a week out from the fight, that athlete is not only mentally and physically ready, but spiritually ready, right? They haven't been broken. Their workouts don't get harder. They get easier as they get closer to the fight. They get easier as they get closer to leave for a mini camp for the NFL. So that's my biggest advice. Just be a student, not a teacher all the time.
So what's your daily routine like? What do you do for yourself?
I've got a wife and 3 wonderful kids. Blessed to live in a wonderful community here in Oregon. We've got challenging weather in the winter. We have a lot of rain. I've grown gills and feathers and webbed feet so I can deal with the rain. I get up early in the morning. I've got some chickens I feed in my backyard. I've got some parakeets that one of which I rescued. Got a couple dogs. My wife and I get the kids off to school. I've got a home office. I've got some real estate ventures that I'm involved in, and kind of get that stuff handled. Training starts anywhere between 8:30 in the morning for me and 10:15, and then I compartmentalize my fighters and my football players. I usually separate them. This time of year, obviously the NFL and works and college football and works. I have less football players. I coach some high school football, strength and conditioning for a high school here called Westland. And we train till probably 1 or 2. Then I have some my other work that I get done. I drink a double shot of espresso every morning with a honey in it. And, we're boaters out here. We live on rivers and lakes. So we spend some time in the water, wake surfing. And like I said, I'm just absolutely blessed to have these people I get to work with.
So do you meditate at all? Kind of a random question.
Great question. So I'm a spiritual guy. I believe in the Lord. I have peace around that. I'm a Gemini, which sounds funny, but I talk to myself because I got that split personality thing going. And I make a ton of mistakes on a daily basis. I ask for forgiveness and I move forward. That's just my routine. I pray with my athletes. I pray for my athletes, pray for my family. And again, we're here for a very short period of time. And if I took that short period of time, let's say 80, 90 years, and I think of the time I'm young and healthy, it's even less, right? So I take advantage of every day.
It inspired me slightly, that little bit, because I don't look at life like that. Do you know what I mean? In the sense
Yeah.
of you are only young and healthy for a period of time, and then before you know it, you're like, oh, my shoulder, oh, my back. This must have been all those tire flips with Dave.
Hey, none of us are going to get out of this alive, so we might as well take advantage of the time we're here.
No, that's true, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm all about sort of meditation, and I talk to myself quite a bit. Positive self-talk's good, you know. It's good for the brain.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
people,
absolutely.
hopefully, people listening don't think we're fucking batshit crazy.
Well, hey, listen, I'd rather talk to myself than an alien or a tree stump. I've seen people that do both those things too. So at
That's
least,
true.
my maker's in heaven and I'm down here on earth, and together we'll try to figure this thing out.
So have you got? I think you said you've got something with ESPN today. Is it
Yeah,
ESPN?
we have a thing. Yeah, at 3 o'clock. Yeah, within in the next 20 minutes. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Chael's contracted with ESPN, and does a lot with them. And ESPN, I think, just bought the rights to the UFC. So I think, is it still Fox and ESPN or some, again, amalgamation of those networks, those big networks now. So Chael's kind of tied back into that, and his podcast and what have you. So yeah, there's always some interview going on.
Cool, man. Well, because I know you've got to go in like 20 minutes, and I know you've got to get ready. Thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it. I always let my guests who I host have 2 minutes just at the end to advertise themselves, where they can find you, contact you. Any athletes, if they tune into this, can contact you if they want, I guess. But yeah, give advertise yourself. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
I don't advertise at all, actually.
Oh,
I'm all word of mouth, and those who are meant to find me, find me. Those who don't. And yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, but my dance card's super full right now. I got
that's cool.
16 fighters, all of which are getting ready for fights over the next 6 months. So I wish you the best. You have talent. That's why I accepted your invite. I watched some of your podcasts, and I
Thank you,
think
man.
you have a future, my friend.
I hope so.
Believe in you.
Okay, cool. I won't put your. Do you want me to put your Instagram down below, anyways?
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah, just so followers can follow you in that. And I'll link you over the full episode when it's uploaded and the artwork. And if you want to share it on your page and that, you can. If you don't, you don't. But yeah,
Sounds
I
great.
appreciate it, man. I really, really appreciate your time. It's been a laugh. It's been good.
Have a great day and get to sleep. Isn't it like 10 o'clock out there?
Yeah, I'm gonna be up late. It's cool.
All right, man.
Thursday night party time for me. All right. Anyways, take care. Enjoy your day, man. I'll keep in touch. All right.
Thanks for the interview. Talk to you later.
Take care. Bye.